I want to play some of what your opponent, Senator Ashley Moody, has said about your campaign and get your response on the other side. Take a look.
My opponent will be a self-proclaimed socialist that proudly signed up and joined the Democratic Socialists of America. Angie Nixon, who will be my opponent in November, and her comrades want to destroy this country and everything that it is built on.
Some strong words there. How do you respond?
You know, when people's voice start getting squeaky and really high pitched, usually they're lying. And Ashley Moody knows that I'm not a socialist. I joined the DSA because I believe in them in regards to fighting for adequate public housing, as well as fighting for quality health care, as well as making sure that we are getting our veterans off the street, taking big money out of politics, right? The Democratic Party is a big tent. It is a big tent, and it's an everybody party. We have folks on the left, on the right, to the middle of the party, and I'm super excited to be on a ticket with someone like David Jolly, with someone like JJR, because we bring different things, and that's what folks, but at the end of the day, what folks want, as I stated earlier, is they are tired of the status quo. Ashley Moody is someone who decided to use $10 million that was supposed to be directed at the most medically needy kids in our state. She allowed that to be diverted to defeat two citizen-led ballot initiatives, which would have helped improve our health for Floridians here in the state. She also decided to increase, she voted against the ACA subsidies, which basically knocked off over 300,000 people off the ACA rolls. So our private insurance went up, as well as those folks who lost their insurance. She doesn't care about anyone but looking out for her billionaire friends.
Let me ask you, because you did join the DSA, and I think people and voters have questions about where you stand as it relates to the DSA platform. So let's go through a few of the issues that they stand for. The DSA calls for abolishing the Senate, the office that you are running for. Do you support abolishing the Senate?
No, I don't. No, I don't support that.
Not at all. Okay. Well, let's go through a couple more. The DSA platform also calls for defunding the Pentagon and lifting sanctions on Iran. Do you support defunding the Pentagon or lifting sanctions on Iran?
I think we need to make sure that we are looking at the Department of Defense budget with a fine-tooth comb. They are the only agency or department that has failed an audit. And so I want to make sure that we're spending our money wisely. Right now, we are in a very expensive war in Iran, which has caused some of our military men and women to lose their lives. And it has also caused Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of Donald Trump, to get richer, and many of their campaign donors who are defense contractors to get richer. People are frustrated at that.
But would you go so far as actually supporting defunding the military?
I think we need to figure out what we're going to use our funding on, right?
So you don't rule that out?
I don't believe in funding. I don't believe in defunding anything. I think we need to make sure that we are scrutinizing them, and we need to make sure we're spending money the right way. What I do want to make sure we're doing, we need to make sure we're fully funding public education. We need to make sure that we are fully funding Medicare and providing universal health care for people, because people shouldn't be going bankrupt simply because they go to the doctor. We also need to make sure that we're providing things like universal child care. And how do we do this? Well, we repeal that big BS bill because it wasn't beautiful, the one that Donald Trump pushed, and we make these billionaires pay what they owe. We also close these corporate tax loopholes. The fact remains that over 88 companies last year made over $105 billion, and they paid absolutely nothing in federal taxes. I've been talking to people, and it was a woman who told me she made $55,000 last year, and she's on a payment plan with the IRS.
So it sounds like you do want to make big changes to how the military is funded. Would that run the risk of making the United States vulnerable to attacks?
You know who's making us vulnerable to attacks? Donald Trump. Donald Trump is bullying folks. Donald Trump is being disrespectful. He's trying to just, do things that the Congress and Senate has not agreed to do. And so, again, we need to make sure that we are scrutinizing all of our spending with a fine-tooth comb. There are veterans that are living unhoused on the streets. There are active duty military people who are on their families, their spouses who are on food stamps. Clearly, something is broken right now. And so we need to make sure that Pete Hegseth isn't allowing combat helicopters to go outside of Kid Rock's home for a cool social media moment. Our taxpayer dollars shouldn't be spent on that. There are literally people rationing their prescription drugs right now. We need to make that stop.
Okay, the DSA platform also calls for drafting a new constitution. Do you support that, drafting a new constitution?
I don't support that, but what I do support is making sure that we're fully following the Constitution, which is everything that Donald Trump is against. We need to make sure that we are enforcing the Constitution and enforcing our laws and not allowing someone like Donald Trump, who happens to be a 34-count adjudicated rapist, to actually circumvent those things.
Well, it sounds like you disagree with a number of the DSA policy items, while agreeing with some of them, perhaps.
But the main policy items that I agree with, which unfortunately leadership within the Democratic caucuses don't agree with, is making sure that we have access to universal health care, right? I don't understand what is wrong with me not wanting people to go bankrupt if they go to the doctor. There are literally people who are dying because health insurance companies want to deny their claims. They want to deny them life-saving health care. Like, that is wrong. Do we not see anything wrong with these companies doing this? They're only doing this because they want to make a profit.
Why join the DSA if you disagree with various parts of their platform? Does it not just become a distraction from your own campaign and your own agenda?
You all are the only ones that are distracted. I'm actually going out talking to voters about the things that matter to them. And so we should make sure that we're pivoting to the right conversations. The fact remains that there are people who are dying because they don't have access to quality health care. Meanwhile, Ashley Moody voted to end the ACA subsidies. As I stated, nearly 300,000 people fell off the Affordable Care Act rolls. There are people who are dying because they don't have access to health care. Also, the fact that Ashley Moody is corrupt, right? She's corrupt. She allowed $10 million that was supposed to go towards the most medically needy kids to be diverted because they wanted to defeat 2 citizen-led ballot initiatives. The status quo is broken. People are losing their minds right now and taking their lives and even taking their children's lives. And the people at the top want to stoke division and want to push this hateful rhetoric. At the end of the day, I have always been about the people of Florida, which is why my campaign is Angie for Florida. I want people to no longer just survive. They deserve to thrive and flourish.
Very quickly, because I know that you have to go. Congressman Jolly says he is a capitalist. Would you call yourself a capitalist, or do you reject capitalism?
I live in a capitalistic society. I'm a small business owner. I like to make money. I don't see what the problem is.
So are you a capitalist?
I'm a capitalist who believes that we need some strong regulation.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.